How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And you know what time it is. It is time for the joke of the day. If you're new to this channel, we do this 5 days out of the week. Maybe you had a long, maybe you had a stressful day, or maybe it was the market conditions while you came to watch this video, plus hear one of my corny jokes. Here it comes. Did you know the first French fries wasn't cooked in France? It was actually cooked in Greece. I don't know, that was really bad. But anyways, what we're going to be talking about today is OCGN. Ended up having a red day. You can see we had a pullback, and on top of that, the market conditions also were not the greatest. But there's a new strategy that I want to explain to you guys. I kind of talked about it before in previous videos, but I will expand on it further. But I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. It's very important to know those key levels in a bullish case scenario and as well as in a bearish case scenario. And then we're going to go on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and as well as the short interest information. The reason why this is important because the short interest does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know what was the buying and as well as the selling behavior like on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for OCGN. Let's see how it performed on the day. So I ended up closing at $8.92, being down 7.37%. On the low, it tested $8.80, and then on the high, testing $9.95. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 31.406 million shares, and for the average volume over 10 trading days, being at 84.47 million shares. So we did end up having below average volume on the day, and it's part of the reasons why we ended up seeing continued pressure on the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the 1-year daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it is at 46.28. So it is on a downtrend. And then when we take a look at the moving averages here on our chart, we are above the 100-day, the 200-day, the 50-day, but we are below the 21-day EMA. So you can see we ended up testing $8.80 on the low, and this is where we had our support. But one thing to keep in mind, if we have another pullback going into tomorrow, then we could test right here on the 50-day right around $8.50. So this is why I was saying, as far as adding to a position for OCGN, it doesn't make sense to be adding shares when in the middle of a falling knife. So that's why I have not been adding whatsoever, and I feel if you are going to do so, it is a very risky thing to do. Now, as far as for a bullish move, you're going to want to see OCGN get back into the $9 level. We ended up seeing a high of $9.95. So now what ends up happening, $10 becomes a psychological area. If OCGN gets a bounce going to 10, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking to sell, and as well as traders wanting to jump into the play to take profits. So the only way to actually fix this is more volume coming into the play. So this is just one thing that you want to be aware of, and this is something you could also track, especially if you see what it's looking like inside of the pre-markets. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for OCGN. So as we scroll down further on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed position. So we can see for November the 9th, we have QuantBot Technologies with a closed position, and we also see Pro Equities. So they definitely been hedging here, having a call and as well as a put. And as we go down even further, we have Inspire Advisors with a closed position. And then when we see here for November the 8th, we have Russell Investment Group Limited that purchased 31,776 shares, and we have Meter Asset Management Inc. that that purchased just over 4,400 shares. So keeping this in mind, I know I covered that yesterday. That is good to see, but we do see institutions have closed their positions. And then when we take a look at the dark pool short volume ratio, it is at 43.45%. And then for the dark pool short volume being just over 7.5 million shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 4.1 million, updated 25 minutes ago, and the short borrow fee rate is at 2.20%. And now when we take a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see for the close of the 5th, which was last week Friday, it was at 55.60, and then for the close for yesterday being the 8th, it was at 43.45. So one thing that is very clear, OCGN does continue to have short squeeze potential, and there's many shorts who are still vested in this play. So this is part of the reasons why you're seeing a lot of volatility, and you want to be patient when it comes to your next entry. So now let's jump into the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for OCGN. So we can see here on the inflow it was 60.18, and then on the outflow it was 67.30. So we ended up having an outflow day. When we take a look at the breakdown, you can see we had 0 on the large, 38.55 on the medium, and as well as on the small we had 21.63. When we take a look at the outflow side, you can see on the large it was 8.13, and then on the medium it was 37.73, and on the small it was 21.44. And keep in mind this is in the millions. When we take a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you could see for today, November the 9th, it being a negative outflow of 8,126.18, and it's been that way as far as outflows are concerned for the large scale orders for the past 3 trading days. When we take a look at the breakdown even further, you could see as far as for the retail side, which is the small scale orders, it looked fairly close because we had 21.63 versus 21.44. Not a huge difference, but we did end up having an inflow on that side. And then when we take a look now on the medium, yes, very similar as well, and we ended up having more inflows. And when we take a look at what happened on the large, you can see there was a good amount of outflows, so there is a lot of selling, which potentially could be coming from institutions. So now when we take a look now at the turnover ratio, the turnover ratio was at 15.87%. So yes, this is fairly high. You could see even when we were doing previous videos, it was lower than this. But one thing to keep in mind, this is not super high, right? We've seen and covered other stocks on the channel that have been a lot higher than this, but you also have to understand it was a very volatile day inside of the market, and they also did end up putting out their earnings. So it's going to be very interesting to see what it will be tomorrow when we cover it. So now let's jump into the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for OCGN, like I was saying earlier, I was talking about a new strategy, and you know what, it's really not that new. I've kind of talking about it in previous videos. Please do not jump into this play in the middle of a falling knife. We have seen it pull back quite a bit. And I've heard many saying, well, you know what? It is pulling back, especially when it spiked up to $17. They're saying buy, 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 buy. And I'm like, that is just bad advice to follow. There is no point buying it when it was in the $10 range, $11 range, $12 range, and so forth, because that is just too high. When we take into consideration how the price has been moving and how volatile it is, you want to make sure when you do get into a position, you're getting in at a price where you're not paying a premium. All right. And the only way you're going to be able to actually take advantage of this is to be patient. We could see, as far as for the price action is concerned, I really wanted to see it hold up the $9 level today, and it ended up breaking right through it. So like I was saying inside of the Webull comments, I wouldn't be shocked if that $9 area now ends up becoming an area of resistance. And even when they put out their earnings report, it was to be expected. We know that they have a strong cash position due to the fact that they've raised a good amount of cash. And then on top of the business operations that they updated us on that many of us already know about, about. So what does this mean? I'm talking about the EUA. We know that they filed for it, wanting to get covaxin to help the age group of 2 to 18 years old. There is a gap there and they're trying to fill that. And they also did say, as far as for the first half of 2022, they're trying to make sure as far as those trials and everything that is required should be done. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, and that's why if you're going to be inside of this play and you're going to be buying now, which I do not recommend, then you got to look at this as an investment. If you're going to be trading off of the fluctuations, of course you got to have a strategy. Many people are telling me they're going with calls, puts, and so forth. You do what's right for you. I, for myself, yes, I am still interested in this play, but at the current moment, I will not be making an investment. Another thing that I want to go over, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, OCGN does continue to have short squeeze potential. So if you end up having buying pressure, or we end up having a big catalyst come through this stock, then you can look forward to seeing a strong move to the upside. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, and you just never know when it's going to come, especially if you're waiting on the decision from the FDA, because I feel like if we do get that decision, this stock will see a lot of momentum. But I'll make sure, since I do trade on a daily basis, I'll be prepared for that, and I will make sure to keep you guys inside of the loop. But for the most part, let's see how OCGN performs. I would love to see it hold up at least the $8 range to close out at the end of this week. But hey, if it ends up jumping back to 9, that would be great as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.